March 1st, 1954, 6:45 am local time. On Bikini Atoll, a flash brighter than 1,000 suns erupts from the lagoon. The Castle Bravo test, a 15-megaton thermonuclear device, vaporizes 3 islands instantly. The mushroom cloud climbs 40 kilometers into the stratosphere. But something is wrong. The yield is more than double what scientists predicted, and the wind is blowing the wrong way. Within hours, fine white ash begins to fall on the inhabited atoll of Rongelap, 160 kilometers away. Children play in the powder, thinking it's snow. They will not know for days that they are being poisoned. The U.S. military, caught off guard, scrambles to contain a catastrophe that has already escaped their control. Paradise has become a radioactive tomb. Before the bombs, Bikini Atoll was home to 167 people. They lived on a string of 23 islands around a turquoise lagoon, subsisting on fishing and coconut palms. In February 1946, the U.S. military governor arrived and asked them to leave temporarily for the good of mankind, comparing them to the children of Israel in the Bible. The Bikinian leader, Judah, agreed. They were relocated to Rongelap Atoll, 200 kilometers east. But Rongelap had insufficient food and water. Within months, the islanders were starving. The U.S. moved them again to Kwajalein, then to Kili Island. The Bikinians became a displaced people, scattered across the Marshall Islands. Meanwhile, the U.S. Navy prepared for Operation Crossroads, the first nuclear tests since Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The atoll was evacuated, but not for long. The first test, Able, was dropped from a B-29 on July 1, 1946. It missed its target by 700 meters, sinking only a few ships. The second test, Baker, was detonated 27 meters underwater. It created a massive radioactive cloud that contaminated the entire lagoon. Scientists were alarmed. They had not anticipated the extent of the fallout. But the military pressed on. By 1952, the U.S. had tested 6 more bombs at Bikini and Inuitak. The Atomic Energy Commission, AEC, downplayed radiation risks. They declared the atoll safe for return, despite evidence of contamination. In 1947, the Bikinians were allowed back, briefly. Then the hydrogen bomb program demanded bigger tests. In 1952, they were evacuated again. The warning signs were clear. The bombs were growing larger and the safety margins were shrinking. But the Cold War imperative overruled all caution. The decision that sealed the fate of Bikini came in late 1953. The U.S. wanted to test a new thermonuclear design, the shrimp device. It used lithium-7 deuteride, which was believed to be less reactive, but the scientists miscalculated. The lithium-7 would actually produce tritium, boosting the yield. The AEC knew there was a risk, but they authorized the test anyway. The target yield was 6 megatons. No one expected 15. The military also chose to ignore weather warnings. The wind pattern on March 1, 1954 was not safe, a fact recorded by weather officers, but overruled. The decision to proceed was made at the highest levels. It was a gamble. The lives of thousands of people, Marshallese, American servicemen, Japanese fishermen, were placed on the outcome. The disaster was not an accident, it was a choice. At 6:45 a.m., the shrimp device ignited. The fireball was 7 kilometers wide. The heat melted the coral reef, creating a crater 2 kilometers across. The blast wave circled the Earth twice, but the worst was the fallout. The mushroom cloud injected 10 million curies of radioactive material into the atmosphere. The prevailing wind was supposed to carry it north over empty ocean. Instead, it blew east-southeast, directly over the inhabited atolls of Rongelap, Eilingene, and Utirik. Within hours, a fine white ash, pulverized coral mixed with fission products, coated the islands. The ash contained iodine-131, cesium-137, and strontium-90. On Rongelap, 64 people were exposed. On Utirik, 157, the U.S. military did not evacuate them for 2 days. By then, they had ingested lethal doses of radiation. The Castle Bravo test had turned the Pacific into a radioactive dump. The U.S. military's response was a study in denial. They initially claimed the fallout was harmless. When the Japanese fishing trawler Lucky Dragon No. 5 returned to port with all 23 crew suffering from acute radiation sickness, the U.S. Navy dismissed it as dermatitis. The crew's skin was peeling off. One died 6 months later. The U.S. sent a team to Rongelap to collect urine and blood samples, but they gave no medical treatment. They told the islanders to wash off the ash with water they did not have. The AEC classified the radiation data. They did not inform the Marshallese of the risks. American servicemen on nearby ships were ordered to stand on deck and watch the test, unprotected. Many later developed cancers. The cover-up had begun. The full extent of the contamination would not be revealed for decades. The horror of Castle Bravo became clear only when the fallout reached the global stage. The Lucky Dragon story made headlines worldwide. The Japanese government protested. The US offered a $2 million settlement, but the Marshallese were ignored. The AEC continued testing at Bikini and Atoll, 23 tests in total. By 1958, the atoll was a cratered wasteland. The US declared it safe for return in 1968, but a 1978 survey found cesium-137 levels 11 times higher than safe. The islanders were evacuated again. They have never permanently returned. The US Congress passed the Compensation Act in 1986, but it covers only medical care, not full resettlement. Today, Bikini Atoll is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, a monument to the nuclear age. But the people remain exiled, scattered across the Marshall Islands, waiting to go home. The human cost is immeasurable. The Rongelapese suffered miscarriages, stillbirths, and thyroid cancers. Children born after the tests had genetic abnormalities. The US conducted a medical study on the islanders for decades, but it was research, not treatment. They were never told the full dangers. The Bikinians, too, saw their traditional way of life destroyed. They lived on Kili Island, a single island with no lagoon, unable to fish or farm as they once did. Many died of diabetes and heart disease from imported food. The US has paid $100 million in compensation, but it is not enough. The atoll itself remains contaminated. The lagoon is safe to swim in, but the island's coconuts, a staple of the Bikinian diet, still have high radiation levels. The paradise they left in 1946 is gone forever. It is now a radioactive ghost. The cover-up lasted decades. In 1994, declassified documents revealed that the AEC knew the fallout would be dangerous but proceeded anyway. The US government had also conducted human radiation experiments on Marshallese without consent. A class action lawsuit by the Bikinians in 2006 was dismissed. The US argued it had sovereign immunity. In 2010, the UN Special Rapporteur on the Right to Food condemned the US for failing to clean up the atoll. The Bikinians continue to demand a full cleanup and the right to return, but estimates suggest that removing the contaminated soil would cost over $1 billion. The US has not committed. The story of Bikini Atoll is not just a nuclear disaster. It is a story of colonialism, racism, and the prioritization of military power over human life. The reckoning is still incomplete. Today, Bikini Atoll stands as a warning. The 23 tests there produced more radioactive fallout than all atmospheric tests combined. The displaced people still wait. In 2018, a US government report acknowledged that the atoll is not safe for permanent habitation. The Bikinians have become a symbol of the nuclear age's human cost. Their story is a reminder that the pursuit of power can destroy not just land, but lives. The legacy of Bikini Atoll is one of broken promises and radiation that will outlast us all. The question remains, who will take responsibility? If you want to understand the true cost of nuclear weapons, look to the Pacific. Look to the people who lost everything. And remember that paradise is fragile. Subscribe to Nuclear Disasters for more stories of the atomic age.